Welcome, everyone, to the Professional Development Webinar from Texas Instruments. And tonight's feature is IB Math Curriculum, Topic 2, Functions. I'm going to try to show a few things as we have a few more people joining us this evening. There is a schedule of events. We're on our third IB webinar, with the others are listed. They are also listed on the TI webinar page. Okay, that's me. I will be here in the background this evening trying to answer chats and advance pages when needed, but Daniel is going to be mainly the one to roll with the event. Okay.
Yay.
As we move through tonight's meeting, if you have questions, you can send them out in your chat. If you don't see a chat option, scroll your cursor along the bottom of your screen, and you'll have a chat bubble appear there. And when you share questions and comments through a chat, be sure to select all participants. There are some other options. Some say panelists, some say attendees. So be sure to check all participants when you're sharing your chat. If at any time it seems like your audio drops out in your WebEx menu options or pop-ups, try to find audio and communicate and try to just reconnect using some of the options there. Click it again, maybe leave the audio, and then rejoin. So that's just a few things about our WebEx thing. We will not have a poll tonight, so we'll just get right in started with tonight's event. So Daniel, over to you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody is having a nice September to the start of the school year. I am down here in South Carolina, and I am honestly getting tired of the weather. We have had over 90-degree heat since May. It just has not stopped. So I'm looking forward to some fall weather to have some nice crisp air. But having said that, this is our third webinar that we're doing. Just to kind of share with you a few things. One, to talk about the new changes that are currently happening in IB Math with the start of the 2-year cycle of, the new maths coming out. This is the first year of teaching those new maths, although the first test will not happen until 2021. Some schools are already starting to teach the curriculum. Me personally, I am teaching at an IB school called Christ Church Episcopal School. I actually just started there. This is my first year there. And we're kind of in the middle of ending the old math this year and starting the new math also. So we're in that transition phase like many of you and trying to make the best of it. So as we go along here, I'm just kind of looking at the chat window, and if anybody has any question, comments, please just shoot them there, and I'll try to answer them, or Ruth might might answer them or send them my way as we go along here tonight. But the exciting thing is TI is trying to help us out with the math changes. I sat down with some people from TI back in the spring, and they were really interested in, becoming part of the IB world. Yes, their calculators are very useful for IB, for the exams and for the classes, but honestly, they never had put their foot into the ring with respect to really getting involved in IB. When the changes were announced, they thought this would be a great time to help out. And I don't know if you've checked out the TI website and noticed what they did with AP. So there are some AP resources there where they've gone through the last couple of years of free response questions, where one of the chief examiners of AP kind of went through and showed everybody how the questions were graded, and then how you can use TI technology for those questions. So that was very useful. So now they're trying to jump in on the IB side of things. And we're trying to do something that actually a little bit more in-depth, because what I'll go through, in the second half of this webinar is what TI is doing on their website and how they can help our teachers, or our IB teachers, in the process here. I'm going to show you the website. I'm going to show you the resources that are there. We're still in the new initial phases, so when you see it, there are some good things there, but we're adding more. So I'm just going to preface that. So we're at a good starting point, but definitely we want to add more to it as the year goes on, because, again, this is the transition year, and we're trying to, have stuff ready for you so when the testing year comes next year, you'll be ready to go. So having said all that, me personally, I didn't really talk about myself too terribly much. I've been teaching this is my 25th year of teaching. I've been teaching IB, all levels of IB math for the last 16 years. And the last 3 years before I switched to my new school, I was also an IB coordinator. So I'm really invested in IB, and I think it's one of the best curriculums out there. I know it's very difficult, very challenging for the students, but I think it's the best prep for them to get into college and beyond. And I've also been working with TI for the last four and a half years as an instructor, and I'm loving that I'm, trying to, join the two. So we're already getting questions, which is good, and I'll try to pick up on those as we go along. But enough about me. So one of the things that I'm going to cover first is just basically discussing the changes. This is our third webinar. The first webinar that we did, we discussed kind of in general, what to expect from IB, and how the courses changed their names, what's happening to the old courses, how things are coming with the new courses, how the IAs are changing. Are there going to be any changes with respect to the testing? So we got a general overview with the first webinar, and now we're in our second in a series of topic webinars. So last month we discussed topic 1 and basically just went through the specific changes in that topic. And that's what I covered in the first half of the webinar. And then we jumped to the website for TI to kind of show those specific topics, what we can do to enhance your teaching and your students' learning. So the one sheet that I've been using this is my third webinar now, is my What's New sheet. And let me share my screen. So everybody can see it now. All right, so here is my screen here. And this has been such a helpful sheet that I received from a fellow TI instructor who also is a workshop leader for the new IB Maths. He sent this to me, and it's been a godsend, because even though it looks daunting at first, when you kind of see how it's laid out, you can kind of see what's new, what's different, what's been added, what's been taken away, and it's been really helpful. I ran a 2-hour kind of workshop session for the IB Math teachers in South Carolina, and we basically spent a good 30 to 40 minutes just on this sheet, looking at the differences, what's new, what's changed, and it was really eye-opening just kind of looking at this sheet here. So I've already kind of gone down to topic 2, which is functions for the new maths. So just a quick overview, if you haven't heard, there are 4 new IB math classes. We have 2 courses called Analysis and Approaches, one at the standard level and one at the higher level. And that pretty much, at the closest relation to those two new courses is the current IB Math SL and IB Math HL with the calculus option. So for those schools that teach IB Math SL and HL and then use the calculus option, analysis and approaches is more than likely the way you're going to go with respect to what you're teaching. The other two courses are called Applications and Interpretations, and basically that is replacing the IB Math Studies course. It has been bulked up a little bit with the material that is being covered, but you know, I still think it's a good level for those students who are currently in studies or going to be in studies. We will see some topics here and there that might be a little kind of, I don't really remember those, but it's still a good fit for those study students. So the big difference there is now there's a higher level option for applications and interpretations, and of course the standard level. Basically, is if you took those other options from the current higher level course and kind of split them up and sprinkled them into another course, that would be your applications and interpretation. So, you know, your discrete math, your probability statistics, that kind of stuff will now be filtered in the applications and interpretations higher level course. Not exactly, but that's kind of the best fit. I was told by IB that these courses are in the 80%, 75 to 80% the same material as the current IB Math courses, so as not to scare you off and say it's a complete 100% overhaul. A lot of the stuff does overlap. And that's why I like this document that I have here, because it's color-coded to show you, okay, what was in the math for IB studies, and now where is that information? What was in the Math SL, where did it go? So it's color-coded to show you what was in the current math and where it's now placed in the upcoming math. So just kind of looking at the page here at the top, you'll notice that it has a little kind of peachy-looking color. It says new content. So wherever you see that color, that's going to be the new content in the courses. Then we have a green section that says 2012 Math Studies. So from that 2012 curriculum, wherever you see green was in the Math Studies. And then wherever you see purple is in the Mathematics SL, and then wherever you see the blue, it's in Mathematics HL. And then up in the yellow, which I can't really see too well because I'm blocked here, it's the options. So the color key is right at the top there, and it kind of shows you where things are located. So right down here, if I just look at the first column under 2.1, you'll notice that it's in green. And so that was the material that was already in studies, but now it's in the applications and interpretations SL content. So a couple things. You'll notice that if I scroll over 2 columns to the SL for analysis and approaches, it is also green, okay? So that is intentionally done, because what what IB has done is they have now set a certain number of topics to be covered in all 4 courses. And what that means is there is what's called the core, okay? So you'll notice there's a little asterisk by the 2.1 here in both the SL analysis and approaches and the applications and interpretations. And that means it's part of the core. So it's covered in every one of the 4 subjects. And there are 60 hours of core material. So you might ask yourself, well, there's no green in the higher level applications and interpretations or the analysis and approaches higher level, because this one is purple and this one is blue. And that's because the other thing that IB has done is they've made the SL course a complete subset of the HL course. So all of the material covered in SL is also covered in HL. So these first two columns here, that is all covered in the HL Applications and Interpretations class. So even though it only shows the 2.1 here in green for the SL column, that is also carried over into the HL column. So both the first two columns are HL material, and then only the first column is the SL material. And again, you can see how anything with an asterisk is going to be covered in what's called the core. All right, so just kind of looking through, there is a little purple down here. If I go to 2.2, which we're doing function, domain, and range and stuff like that. Oop, left the page. So down here, there's a little purple, okay? So if I go up to my color key, all right, that purple meant that that was part of the Math SL, not part of the studies course. So those are the types of things you got to pay attention to, because inverse function as a reflection in the line y equals x and the notation f to the -1 of x, that was not really covered in the curriculum, for math studies under the previous, last 7 years. So now some of you may already teach that, okay? With respect to, I have a sheet that I can provide with that breakdown. So at the end of this webinar, the question that was asked was just how much of topic 2 is, how many hours are spent with topic 2 in the core. I have a breakdown of all the hours on another sheet, so I'll give my email address at the end, and if you just shoot me a quick email, I'll send that to you, by tomorrow. So thank you for that question. I don't have the hour breakdown right here, but I have it on another sheet that I can easily send you. So going back to this inverse function as a reflection, some of you might already teach that, I know that's just always part of whenever I deal with functions, domain range, and inverse functions, I always use that notation in that discussion. So that's not a huge thing for me personally, but, some of you might want to consider that kind of going forward, just kind of an FYI. So just kind of scrolling through, you can kind of see in the columns here what is in the first two. Again, those are your applications and interpretations. Second two are your analysis and approaches. And, if you see anything that pops out to you as I'm scrolling through here, please give me a shout so I can kind of talk about it, that sort of thing. But just kind of moving along, I went to the second page here where we have 2.3 and 2.4. You notice those are also in the core. They have the asterisk there, so they're on both sides here. And, the only thing added down here, you'll notice in the 2.5, for the applications and interpretations, we added the y-axis as a vertical asymptote. So we have vertical asymptotes now, okay, added to the new, the replacement for studies course. And then also we have a bit of sinusoidal models that were also added. So please know that. Okay, so those are just some of the additions to what was in the past studies, but now is the applications and interpretations. So just kind of be aware of those things. So what I like about this sheet is it just kind of shows a nice charts and color coding of what's new, what's been added, and honestly, what has been taken away. Because I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, so I didn't want to confuse anybody. As I scroll down to the bottom, it also has some things that have been added and subtracted in general from the material. So you can kind of see that, subtractions from going from the studies course to the applications course, number sets have been moved to prior knowledge, so that's not going to be covered. All currency conversion, gone. All logic, gone. all right, most set theory, okay, that's going to be now moved to prior knowledge. All right, and then it has a list of additions. So you can kind of see what's been added, okay, and what's going to cause you potential problems that you might have to kind of bolster up the students on, spend a little bit more time on. All right, but, you know, what I've been talking with with my studies teacher at my new school, when I showed him this, you know, he was like, okay, so I really have to review Voronoi diagrams. So that's something that he's never taught before. So those are just some types of things that you have to be prepared for kind of going forward. So this is going to be an interesting year. You know, this is the transition year because we're ending and then starting almost at the same time. So I'm very curious to see what happens into the second year of math. But that's pretty much the kind of what's new. And we can spend a lot more time going through these columns. This sheet is definitely something that you should spend some time looking at. And it's included. It's one of the documents that's included with this webinar. So please download it, check it out. If there's any questions that you have with it, please do not hesitate to, you know, send them my way. But just to kind of, I'm here at 2.6, and I noticed that it's all new content. Okay, so you can kind of see that there is a chunk of material that has not been part of the curriculum before that, you know, now we have to be made aware of for the applications and interpretations. So you need to ask yourself, are your students prepared for that? Is there something I'm going to do maybe a little bit differently when I'm teaching so that, you know, they're prepared for what we see there? But that is basically, you know, probably one of my favorite sheets that have come out of this change, just so I can actually see the new things that are happening. But having said that, what I'd like to do is just kind of go to another source for you. So I'm going to go, not there yet. I'm hoping that many of you have gone to your, you know, my IB page and have kind of scoped things out there. If you have not, okay, the biggest help here would be under the Program Resource Center. So if you can go to the MyIB website, log in, go to the Resource Center, they're going to have, you know, a lot of the updated information there and resources there, curriculum there, teacher support material there. And I apologize, my internet is a little slow. I'm just waiting for it to pop up. So I will just keep talking. But it doesn't seem to be showing up. So I'll come back to that later. Just waiting for that. They're having some connecting. All right, connecting problems. Wonderful. So what has TI done to kind of help us out with respect to the new maths that are going to be showing up soon? So one thing I'd like to show you is the TI website. So I just went to education.ti.com, and again, this is just the home page here. So what you can do to see the IB resources, all right, if you go to, again, this is the main page. If we go to resources, you'll notice under this tab, right at the bottom left, down here, you will see IB resources. So we're going to go to IB resources and take a look at what we have to offer. All right, so the first thing you see are the free activities. So what I did with some fellow instructors from pretty much around the world is we tried to find current TI activities that are on the website that would closely relate to what an IB-style activity or question would look like. So we went through, there are hundreds of them, and we narrowed them down to a handful to start because we definitely needed a starting off point. And what we decided on is a handful for each of the topics, just to kind of give you an idea of the direction we're going. Because the plan is to over the next several months, add more and more activities for you to choose from to just benefit you in your classroom. Right now, we just have the TI activities that are currently on the website. The goal is in the future to create new ones for just IB-specific courses. So if I were to go to the first group, which is Analysis and Approaches, and I hit Browse Activities, what pops up is all of the activities we currently have for all the topics. So you can kind of see that there's a good selection here right now. Definitely more on the Nspire side. We're trying to make it half and half with the 84 and the Nspire because not everybody's an Nspire user, and that is okay. So we're trying to do, some of each. Tonight, I'm going to go through one activity with the Nspire and one activity with the 84, just to kind of show you what we're doing right now. So you'll see there are two drop-down menus. The first one is the curriculum topic. So we are now in functions. So if I click on functions, only the function topics, function activities pop up. So you'll notice there are 5 Nspire, but only 2 84. And that's what we're trying to do is balance those out a little bit. And if we really like an activity, we're going to create it for the Nspire and the 84 at the same time. So if you like the activity and you use one or the other, you'll have that opportunity. Because honestly, my favorite activity is this one right here. It's called Cool in the Pool. I do that every year with my pre-calculus students. I think it's just a great opportunity to combine some real-world stuff, real-world data, and kind of have them do a lot of the work, which I love. But up here, there's a second drop-down tab, which is for technology. And if I select that, I can choose either Nspire or 83. And now right now, it's not a big deal because, there are only 7 activities, so I can choose there. But once we get more and more added, then, we can kind of see that, oh, I only have the Nspire ones here, so now I could select the one I want. So I'm going to select the Cool in the Pool because that is, like I said, if not my favorite, one of my favorite activities to do. And so what this is, it's an exploration to NASA's training center for spacewalk. What they have is a ginormous pool that houses actual modules from the space station so that when the astronauts are training underwater and they weigh themselves in a particular fashion, it is like they're floating in space. So NASA and TI kind of got together and did this activity to create this, and I just absolutely love doing this with my students. So it's about Newton's law of cooling and how a temperature, given certain situations, will decrease to a certain level or increase to a certain level based on the ambient temperature of the room that it's in. So what you'll notice at the bottom, the first thing on the download section is your zip files. So if you click on that, you'll get everything you see to the right of it in one file. The teacher notes, the student activity, something down here that I love and that I'm working on is IB question in both the PDF and Word document format, and then also the TNS files. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, on my computer screen, the TNS files you're not able to click on them. Again, I don't know why that is. But when you click on the zip file, they're there. So I have to check with TI and see what's going on with that. Having said that, so basically you have the teacher notes, which is always helpful to have that. Trust me. You never want to jump into an activity without seeing, for one, doing it yourself first, and 2, kind of knowing what's expected for the students. So the teacher notes are there, and then the student activity is there also. Now, what I like about this activity is you can do a paper version, and that's what the student activity there is in the PDF, and I'll show you what that looks like. That's not that one, it's that one. So this is what the Newton's Cool in the Pool looks like. So it gives you a little background information about the neutral buoyancy lab, in Houston. So it's always nice to have some real background knowledge. A couple pictures of what it looks like, which is kind of cool. And if you've ever seen the movie Armageddon, they filmed some of that in this pool when they were training for the realistic, traveling to get on the asteroid to blow it apart, all that realism. So a couple pictures, which is kind of cool. And then it goes through what they're supposed to be doing for this exercise. And they have all the questions on the paper, all right? So that's fine. If you are a paper type of person, that's great. You can use this and the students can answer each question. But what I love is the TNS file that goes with it. I am lucky enough in my new school that I have my TI-Nspires CX2s with the Navigator system. So when my students get into class and they log in, I click on this button. Where's my button? Oh, right here. Even though it's not highlighted, I click on that button and I send it to them immediately. So this is the same thing as the paper, but it's on their calculator. So then we get to go through, and the first couple pages, again, tell the background of this situation. So it was a holiday weekend. The heater on the pool broke, so then the temperature went down, and then what the students have to do is answer a few questions about that. So it makes them start thinking about, okay, what does it mean for the temperature to go down in this large pool? What temperature will it go toward? Is there a minimum temperature? Is there a maximum temperature? What's going on there? And then they actually start to get to plot data and plot the graphs right here to kind of show, what's happening. So this is for those days, what's happening with that temperature. It looks linear, but is it really linear? Because linear would mean it would keep going down forever, but if you kind of pay attention to this activity, it will kind of plateau and reach a certain temperature, but it won't get any lower than that. And so that's the discussion that the students have with this. And in Newton's law of cooling, we kind of have this formula that's given to us, and we get to experiment with that. And students have to know what T sub A is. It's said the ambient temperature, but what's the ambient temperature of the pool, of the room that the pool is in? What is T sub O, the initial temperature? So the kids have to plug this in, and then they actually have to solve for some variables. They're going to solve for K here, that constant. So then they have to do some logarithmic stuff to solve an equation, which is kind of cool. So we're combining exponentials, logarithms, modeling functions, and real-world data all in this, one activity. So I'll spend a couple days doing this with my students, and I'll do it for a project grade, and I think it's pretty cool. So when I get to this topic, which is going to be next month sometime, I'm really looking forward to this. And so why is this such a good activity to do with respect to IB? Well, for one, I love the real-world situation. I love that the data comes from something that actually exists to connect it to. And I love that it combines multiple, levels of mathematics, because if you know anything about IB questions, it's rare that a question on the exam just deals with one topic. It's usually a combination of topics. And the way we have to get our students to, work well under those situations is to give them examples like that, kind of leading up to it. Now, using an IB test bank, that's great, and I love doing that, but then kind of combining it with these real-world activities is kind of cool. So the kids get to do this, and then we get to have a discussion about this, and it just leads to some good learning. So do the TI activities from the TI website, specify which exact part of the IB curriculum that it should connect to. So that's fine, don't worry about it. So right now we have, since these are activities that were currently on the TI website and not specifically designed for IB, they do not, they're only under the general topic of functions, okay? So, but that is something that we are trying to do more of going forward, so that when we start creating activities just for IB courses, we're definitely going to do what you just asked there, is make sure that when you go to the website that, where's my TI? Where'd it go? Here, when we go to the TI website and you can have a drop-down, there's actually going to be a drop-down that has more specific, when you're under the functions heading, we're actually going to have a drop-down for the specific topics under there. So right now, no, because these are activities that weren't designed specifically for IB yet, but that is something that we're doing this year for the future. So, Jim, that was a great question. Thank you. With respect to this activity, I'll go back to this page. The last thing that I want to show you for this activity, which, again, I've been working on for a while now, is the IB question. What I wanted to do is attach an IB-style question with each of the activities so that when the students do the activity and get done with that, then we can add a question onto it. That is something that they would see on the IB exam. So it might not be a NASA Newton's Law of Cooling question, but it uses a lot of the information that were done in that activity to kind of make that connection to, oh, I'm going to see something like this on the exam. So basically, this is, that's not the one, which is, get away. Where is that one? There it is. I knew I would find it sooner or later. So this is the exam style question that goes with Cool in the Pool. So basically, I wrote this to kind of go along with the idea of using an exponential function or possibly logs to solve for something here. So Curtis takes medication and then basically kind of talks about the effects in his bloodstream, the concentration levels, and then how it kind of, the concentration goes down after a certain amount of time. So basically, this is, yes, it's not a NASA Cool in the Pool, but it is an exponential log question that is very similar to something that they would see on an IB exam. So right now we have 25 questions, IB-style questions on the TI website, and I just got finished with 25 more that I sent to TI, so I'm hoping in the next few weeks that those will be on there. So the goal is every month or two to add 25 more questions so that at a certain point we're going to have our own test bank for you to choose from so that you can use them to do whatever you want with them. Because if you notice, this is a Word document. And if you want to take this equation and change it to something else because, you know, you want to use multiple versions, you have the opportunity to do that. I just wrote this basically as a starting point, but if you want to change it around and make it your own, that is perfectly okay. TI is definitely good with that, and I know I'm good with that, so no worries from me. So please use them as you see fit. Like I said, right now we have 25 of them, and I just sent in 25 more. So again, we're building off of that. We just want to create a huge test bank for you to use to kind of help you out going forward. But you'll notice it has the question and it has the mark scheme. So you have the ability to, you know, just take the question and put it in a document and not show it to the students. So just kind of lay that out there for you. And again, all of this is on the TI website. So, and you'll notice there's a PDF and a Word. Yes, you are true. That is correct. If you, and that's what I was trying to show you with the Resource Center. Oh, it finally showed up. So if you go under the My IB, and then we go on to under the diploma and see that. We can kind of see down to the maths. I'm just going to go to the applications and interpretations section. And this is something that hopefully many of you have already kind of started to look through, but you have all of the information here with respect to syllabus, assessments, appendices, and all that stuff. But over here, we have some sample assessments. So if you look under the specimen assessments, there are a lot of questions there too that you can use to kind of guide you. The questions I'm creating will be similar to those or similar to past exam questions. So we're just trying to give you as many options as possible. But I would recommend you kind of spending some time, on the MyIB website also, just to kind of, build up your confidence and see what's going on there. So having said that, I would like to go back to the math section on the TI website. And this time I'd like to go to the 84. So we only have a couple for the 84, and that's something that we're going to be working on going forward. And I like the which garage is better activity. So basically this is a way for students to solve systems of linear equations, but also deal with piecewise functions, stuff like that, while using the 84 calculator. Now, this has not been updated yet. It is the color screen, which is great, but, it hasn't been updated to the new CE or the updated operating system for this particular document because as I was reviewing it to kind of look at it, when it talks about piecewise functions here, it says that the teacher should show you how to do this on the calculator, and you'll notice that on the 84, they're still doing piecewise functions as let's write the function, and then next to it we would write the inequality. But if you are unaware of this and are still using the 84, if you have the new 84 CE, you actually can do piecewise functions on here without having to use the parentheses and whatnot. So I'm just on a y equals screen here, and if I go to my math screen, down at the bottom, so I just went to the way bottom, you'll notice that letter B, it is piecewise. So if I click on the letter B, okay, which I did not do correctly. No. All right, so if I'm going to do this, it'll tell me how many pieces do we have. We'll just kind of do 2 pieces and hit OK. And it'll put the piecewise notation in there. This is something that is also done on the Nspire, but for those people who are 84 users, by all means, I wanted to show that to you because, I started at a new school this year, and they were all 84s. And I was an Nspire user, so I asked them, would it be okay if I introduced the Nspire? And what I found out is the kids over this first month, have been adapting to the Nspire pretty well, which is kind of nice. But they really weren't aware of what they can do on the 84. So I've been spending my time not only showing them how to do things on the Nspire, but also, increasing their skills on the 84 if they want to use those at home. And this is one of those things where if they have the CE, they weren't aware that piecewise functions were there. So I just wanted to share that with you, but now you can kind of add in your different pieces, different functions, and then their conditions, and then graph those. And that's what the 84 activity does. So this is the student activity. And that's what I love about TI too is, they give you a student version as a Microsoft Word file so you can change it if you want to, but they also give you the teacher file so that you can have that in case you have questions or concerns about things. Because if you don't like something about the activity, you can change it or if you have questions about it and the activity doesn't answer those for you, TI is so wonderful and wants you to call them to kind of help you out with that. And I think that's fantastic. So you'll notice that here they lead you through a table for the student to fill in and then answer questions about that, leading it to graphing to equations and then basically finding, where those equations intersect throughout the process. And that's the student version, which is pretty cool. And then this one that I had here is the teacher version. So it kind of goes through and shows you everything that is expected to be in here. It even shows you answers, potential answers, going through so that when you do it on your own, you can kind of compare it to, what TI got when it went through the process. So again, this was not an IB activity and not an activity created for an IB class, but when we were going through all the activities available, this one was a nice topic because, again, not only did it, go through some functions, but it also combined multiple levels of math. And then when you're done with this activity, your job would be then to share this IB-style question with them that kind of relates to that as much as possible. So you'll notice that you were given an equation, you had to find the gradient of that, and then the second one, what is that gradient? And then you had to find the equation for that, and then find the intersection of those two lines. So did it exactly match everything that was in the activity? No, but it kind of gives you something to build off of, kind of going forward with that. Which, again, we're just trying to make the connection. So each of the activities that you see on the TI website has the teacher and student documents. If it's an Nspire, it has a TNS file. Excuse me. And then it also has an IB-style exam question with it. So right now we have, listed there 25, with 25 more hopefully uploaded in the next couple of weeks. And then we're just kind of headed in the right direction, I hope. So then going back to the TI website, so we had the activities we just talked about here, and if you scroll down, we also have the live webinar and on-demand webinars. So if you were to browse the on-demand webinars, what you will see there is a list of any webinar that might be useful for you going forward. So if I were to select the topic or select the technology, and I'm doing, Nspire, and then I'm doing, what do I want to select with any of this, you will see all of or select the subject areas. So you kind of have a drop-down box, and you'll notice that the webinars that I have already done, which have been the IB Math Curriculum Topic 1, and the, where's the other one? So they are currently on there, and you can listen to them if you missed them. The first one, again, was just a broad overview of everything. The second one was dive into Topic 1. This one will be put up there very soon. So those are there. But you'll also notice that there's a whole bunch of IB webinars, and those were not done by me. Those were done by people. A lot of them were done in Australia, some of them done in Europe, that sort of thing. So we've done IB webinars through TI in other countries. So this is the first ones we're doing in the United States, but there are more to choose from if you have any questions on certain things. So what you should notice is that they are for the old math classes. So you'll see if there's studies or SL or HL. But again, they're still going to be useful. So those are there for you. So there's a whole bunch of on-demand webinars if you'd like to listen to them. What they also have here are the, live webinars that are coming up. So if you click on that, if you like this webinar, and you want to listen to the next one, or if you want to recommend this one to one of your cohorts, one of your fellow peers, we are doing our next IB topic 3, Geometry and Trig, October 24th. So you can go ahead and click right here and basically register down here at the bottom. So please take advantage of that as we kind of go forward. So that is what TI is doing right now. The goal during this first year, because we just rolled this out at the end of July, I believe, so we're going to add more content, more IB-specific content to help everybody out. What I tried to do in the last 50 minutes is just, give you an overview of what we're trying to accomplish, how we're trying to help, and just kind of get everybody hopefully on the same page, and just let you know that TI is here to help. Now, the new calculator that came out is the TI-Nspire CX2, and some people were asking, if those are allowed on the IB exams, and yes, they are. So you can go to the website and see that information. So right here, you'll notice that permitted on tests, both the TI-Nspire CX2 and the CX2 CAS are allowed on the IB exam. You'll notice, though, that there is a little double asterisk here that kind of, the information there is a special thing with this new calculator that even though it's a CAS, you have the ability to turn all those functions off, okay? So when you put that, when you go into the menu screen, for the settings screen, you can actually disable the CAS capabilities. So when my new head of school asked me, what kind of calculators I wanted for my room, I said I want the CAS version because not only am I teaching, AP calculus classes, I'm also going to be teaching IB classes. So I can use the same calculator for both classes. I can have the CAS ones for the AP students, and I can turn the CAS off when my IB students get into class. So, so they are allowed on the IB diploma exams, just to let you know, if you're looking to buy the new CX2s. But I think that is all I wanted to share right now. So if does anybody have any other questions that I didn't touch upon, want to ask? Because I'm going to move things over back to our host, if that is okay. So, any questions? Oh, yes, my email. I will definitely give that over. Move that over. Do you want to change? Yes. Good. Excellent. So let me put in my email address. And if you have any questions, comments, I'm also interested, because this is our third webinar we've done, and if you have anything that you think might be more helpful for the next one, okay, you can type it in now or send me an email and say, oh, I would really like more information about X such a topic or that sort of thing. I'd be more than happy to help you out. And also, some of you may have gone to training recently and may have heard something that I skipped or missed, and you'd like to share that. If you can type it in now or send it to me and I'll share it for the next group, that would be so helpful, because when you go to different trainings, depending on the site that you go and the trainer you get, honestly, I hate to say this, but sometimes it's a crapshoot, and you don't know, if the person leading the workshop is not that they're not doing a good job, but some of them might have more information than others, and it's helpful to share with one another. So if you have information that you want to share, that would be great. So go ahead, Ruth. talk away.
Thank you. Thank you for all of the resources that you've shared and the information. We've been trying to keep up with other chats that have been coming up in a different screen, but I think we've about covered everything. Congratulations to tonight's winner. I used random number generator from TI-Nspire, and I only use names of people who have been on tonight's webinar. So thank you for joining us, and congratulations to Yvonne.
Yay, Yvonne.
Yay, Yvonne. The next one is October 24th, as Daniel has mentioned, and he shared with you the link how to get that, how to register for that. I think a question that's going to come up is about certificate for tonight, attending tonight. All right, so that is that's the URL. I'll put it in the chat window. I obviously can't talk and type at the same time. I'm actually just copying and pasting. Also, you will get email about tonight's webinar that will have the link to any documents, mostly just slides, and a link to this as well. All right. Trying to read more comments, see if there's anything that we've missed.
So I was looking at just some of the past questions, just kind of looking through. And one question was, do I believe that maybe the higher level application and interpretation is an easier course than the SL for analysis and approaches? And honestly, I would say no, just for the sheer amount of material, because you're covering those optional topics that were in the past higher level course. And when you're talking about that discrete information or probability and statistics, I think that it's not necessarily the topics that are covered are hard, but it's a kind of different type of hard than they would be in the analysis and approaches. So even though it's a difficult course, the analysis and approaches, I do think that the level at HL is going to be a little bit harder than you would experience at the standard level AA course. And I hope I answered that correctly. So I apologize if I didn't. But thank you all for joining us. I appreciate this.
Thank you all for joining us. Pre-register for the next event if you can, or just join the evening of if your plans change and you're able to join us.
Thank you, everybody.